Welcome to Part 2 of the Queensland Education Science Technician webinar on hazardous chemical registers in schools. In this presentation, I will walk you through creating a chemical manifest using Microsoft Excel 2013. The tools I'll be using are also available in the 2010 version of Excel, but they may be located in a different toolbar ribbon. If you are having trouble locating a tool in your version of Excel, use the Help function to search for its location. I will show you how to do this shortly. If you already have a list of chemicals in a spreadsheet or a table, then you can use this to create a hazardous chemical register instead. A sample manifest is provided on page 19 of Managing Risks with Chemicals in DEET Workplaces. DEET employees may wish to use this form in place of making their own. WorkSafe provides a sample manifest in their manifest guide. I provided a link to this resource in the webinar script. What legislation says that the manifest should look like is this. So it looks a bit different to what DEET has provided us with, but the same information is still contained in it. For this exercise, we're going to keep it simple and just use the following information: the UN number, chemical name, GHS category, storage location, and the largest quantity we have in storage. So if you get lost, the instructions for using Excel to create a chemical manifest can be found in the webinar script, so you can refer to that anytime. You may like to have Excel open whilst you view this webinar. And remember, you can pause the webinar presentation at any time if you want to input information and can't quite keep up. At the start of the webinar, I said I'd show you where the Help function was in Excel. On the top right-hand side of the screen, you'll see this question mark. It's also in other Microsoft programs as well. And if we hover over it, it'll show you the shortcut F1 will work as well. We'll click on that and it'll open up the search dialog box. One of the things that you may not be able to find in earlier versions is something like inserting a comment. So I'm using that as an example. This search will return a lot of information to do with comments, but what you're looking for is where it's actually, where you can find it in the program. So new comment can be found under Review and Comments, and what that means is under the tab up here, Review, the comments here, new comment. So you can insert a new comment. Again, if you hover over an icon, it will also show you the shortcut. In the 2010 version of Excel, you can also find Help under the File button. You won't find it here under 2013. What we're going to do now is to open a new workbook. You'll notice when you go to open a new workbook that you have several templates available to you. We're just going to use a blank workbook. The first thing we're going to do is to name our sheet. Down the bottom here, you'll notice it's called Sheet 1. If you're using 2010, you might have 3 sheets here. We're just going to start with one sheet. So right click on Sheet 1 and rename and call it something like Chemical Manifest. Next we're going to give our table a header row, so just hover your mouse over the A1 cell and left click and start typing your first title. Now to move to the next cell, you can click in the next cell, or you can use your arrow key, or what I like to do is use the tab key. So we're just going to use the basic titles that I explained before. And you can keep them basic like this, or you can go back and make them fancy later. It's up to you. I'd like to show you another neat trick now that I've learnt from using Excel, and that is to go to the next line at the start of the next row. Instead of clicking in there with your mouse, press Enter. Now this is why I use the tab key, because what it's actually doing is taking you back to the first cell that you started tabbing in. This is quite useful when you're doing data entry. If you are entering a number of values in a row, in say like 2 or 3 cells, and then you want to come back down to the next row and start in the first cell. So use tab and then return. It will save you a lot of time. We're not quite finished with our header row. because we can't actually see all of our titles. So I'm going to show you how to adjust the column width so that we can see all our title. So hover over the top of the column where the letters are and left click your mouse to highlight the column. When you right click anywhere in the highlighted area, it brings up a quick menu. Go down to column width and you can specify the column width here. Now just note that this is not in centimetres. I'm not actually sure what value this is measured in. It used to be points. But it is useful for if you know the width number of a column and you want a couple of them the same and exactly the same, then you can enter that known number in there. The method that I prefer is to go to the right hand side of the column, and I say right hand side because if you go to the left you'll be adjusting the row that is before it. So you want to go to the right and you'll notice that the width comes up with the pixels next to it. So we can expand this out to our desired width. Now some chemical names are longer than others, so we might want to bring it out further. And we can go along and do this with all of them. It's very quick. You can go back and change that at any time. Now you notice on the example that I had my text in a different direction. To do that, there are different options that you can use. We're just going to leave it as it is for the moment. As we start entering data into our table, we still want our header row to stand out. So we're going to change the font of the text of our header row. You can left click on the number to select the entire row, or you can just select the text by holding down the left button as you move to the last cell you want to select. We can access the font menu in two ways. We can use this one here up in the Home tab, or we can right click anywhere in the highlighted area and bring up the quick access menu here. So I like to change the type of font that I have. I'll just pick one randomly for now. I like to bold it. You can change the font size by using the drop down menu here or typing in a number, or you can use these quick access icons here to increase or decrease the font with a click of the button. So I don't like to increase it too much, just enough to make it stand out. You can also change your text colour if you have a colour printer. Now when you drop down this menu you might have different colours here. I currently have my computer set to a particular theme from making this webinar, so you might have different colour options there. Notice that there's also a border icon here. You can use this to change the borders of your cells. I like to have a border around all of my cells, and I also like to have a really thick border on the bottom of my header row. You might like to have the top and bottom thick as well. We'll pick that option today. So you can also see that border icon over here, or another way you can access it is to go to your quick access menu, format cells, and select the border option here, and you can actually very quickly take away borders that you change your mind with, or you can change the point value of your borders here. You can put a strike through. So this area here gives you a lot more options than your quick menu, a lot more control over what you can and can't do. In the example in the presentation before, I had my header row on an angle. You can do that in Excel as well by using this option here, and you can change the angle of the text. We're just going to leave it as is. And you can see now that the header row is easily distinguished from other cells from what we started at the beginning. So now's a good time to save your work. You can save your document in a number of ways. You can use the shortcut up here on the left hand side, the little file icon. You can access it through the File tab here, or you can use a shortcut on your keyboard, Control S, and it will take you to the Save As menu if it's the first time you've saved the document. So I'll show you how to do it using Save on the menu here. And you can choose where you want your file to be saved. Give your file a recognisable name that you can come back to and find in a search. So now you'll notice when you use that keyboard shortcut and go Control S, it happens in a nanosecond, but it does actually flash up on the bottom in the bar here as it's saving. And if you haven't saved it for a while, it will take a little bit longer. So I recommend you saving using Control S throughout your work, and that way you won't lose data. I find it useful to have extra information in my page header, and I often forget to go back and do it when I finish the document, so I'll show you how to do it now. Up in the Page Layout tab, you'll notice that the page setup icons are all here. None of those actually say page header or footer, so we need to extend the menu on this little drop down box here, and that'll open up the full menu and select header and footer. You'll notice that the drop-down menus have quite a number of pre-formatted options for us. They're all very nice, but it's not actually what I want to do. So I want to have my school name in my header. So I'm going to create a custom header. So click in the center section and write your school name. And now I'm going to show you how to use some of these icons here. This one here, if you hover your mouse over it, mine's not cooperating at the moment because my computer's running a little slow, but this one here will actually add your worksheet name into it. There we go, insert sheet name, and that's what we want. You can also insert your file name if you would prefer, if you want to go back and know which document it was that you've printed out. That can be quite useful as well. And then press OK. And in our custom footer, go down to the right section and type page, and we can insert our page number. So you'll now notice that our custom header has already imported that information in for us. That's what we called our sheet name, and this is the current page that we're on as well. Now you notice that you can set it up in different odd and even pages, and you can have it different for your first page. And there are quite a few other options as well. You can go into the print preview from this page as well, which can be quite useful when you're trying to line things up. And you can actually see here that we're in portrait orientation. You may want to change that to landscape as you add extra information onto your spreadsheet. To get out of that, just press the back arrow here. We're now ready to enter our data into our table. The UN number for each chemical can be found in section 1 of the SDS. Now, not all chemicals have a UN number, so don't be concerned if you can't find it. The chemical name listed in your manifest is typically the shipping name of the chemical. GHS category is located in section 2 of the SDS. The storage location is the building or room that your chemical is stored in. And the largest quantity is exactly that, the largest quantity that you will ever have in stock. So it's usually the size of the container, so for example 500 grams, and how many of those you're possibly going to have in stock at any one time. And hey presto, I've magically typed all these chemicals into our data sheet ready to sort. You can do it by pausing the webinar and just add 6 or 7 chemicals in there just so that we can do the next exercise together.